This is Algebra 2, Lesson 5.2, Solving Quadratic Equations by Factoring. Today that's what we're doing. We're factoring quadratic expressions and we're solving the equations when we're factoring. And then we're also going to find zeros of quadratic functions beginning on page 256. We got a handful of definitions to start. First one is a binomial. Bi, recognize that prefix means two. Nomial means terms. So two terms such as x plus 1. Notice that's one, two terms. X plus 1. If it said 2x plus 17, that would still be a binomial because this is one term. Even though you clearly see a 2 and an x, remember things are terms when they're separated with addition or subtraction. So that's still one, two terms. Binomial, two terms. If a binomial had two terms, we all recognize that prefix trinomial. That means three terms. Again, notice one, two, three terms. Trinomials have three terms. Today we're going to focus, and over a while we're looking at quadratics, they'll typically be in trinomial form, and we'll factor them and we'll solve for x. When you factor, it's a process used to write a polynomial as a product of other polynomials. So you're taking, of a lesser degree, you're taking something that says x squared, and typically it'll be in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. You're taking something that says x squared, and then you're making it into two sets of binomials. So x squared, for example, plus x plus 1, you're making it say x and x. Notice those are both to the first power. That's what it means by lesser degree. Your degree is the power. That one's the second power. We're making x to the first power. And in this case, it'd be plus 1, which would make it wrong in the middle. So we'll look at it in a second, a better example. But that's what you're doing. You're factoring it out. You're making a trinomial into two binomials for the purposes of today's lesson. So we talked about a binomial and we talked about a trinomial. Bi meaning two, tri meaning three. Monomial is one term. Okay, so how many terms do we have if it says x squared plus x plus 3? How many terms is that? It's 3. 1, 2, 3. How many terms if we have something that says 2xy squared z? How many terms is that? That is only one term. Even though you can clearly see there are four things up there, a 2, an x, a y squared, and a z. Remember, terms are separated by addition or subtraction, and that's not separated at all. So that's only one term. This would classify as a monomial. In this case, one term. A quadratic equation in one variable. Remember, something is a quadratic equation when it says x squared in it. In Algebra 1, you focused primarily on linear equations, x to the first power. In Algebra 2, you focus primarily on quadratic equations, x squared, difference between Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. It has one variable because, as you can see, there's only one letter up there. Now, A, B, and C are letters. I know you can see those. But these are not representing variables. These are actually representing numbers. So an example of this would be 2x squared plus 3x plus 4 equals 0. Notice there are only one variable up there, or there is only one variable. Clearly, it's in two different degrees, one being x squared, one being x to the first power, but you don't see any other variable, and that's what it means by a quadratic equation in one variable. We can solve something when it's in one variable. The zero of a function, a number k is a zero of a function f if f of k equals 0. This is what the zeros are. On your graph, and we talked about this last week, your zeros are the two intercepts. It's when your x value, when your y value is 0, it's where the two of them cross. So those are your x is equal to zeros, and we'll look more at that tomorrow. Here's example number one. Factoring a trinomial in the form x squared plus bx plus c. This is standard form. Um, the two differences when you're talking about factoring standard form, does it have an a value other than 1? So this first example, there is no a value other than 1. X squared minus 9x plus 14. This a value is 1. It's there, but it's 1. So what we want to do, this is how you factor them out. You find your factors of C. Now, I don't want to think of C. I don't want to think of the number 14 as positive 14 right now, and we don't want to think of it as negative 14. Just think of it as the number 14. So what you do is you list your factors. 1 multiplies by 14. Then just count up from the number 1 till you get to the next number that multiplies by something to give you 14. 2 does. 2 multiplies by 7. And then check again. Keep going. 3, the next bigger number, the next biggest number doesn't multiply by anything to give you 14. Neither does 4. Neither does 5. And neither does 6. And then notice after 6, you're back to the number 7 right here. And then it starts counting up again. So you know at that point, those are the only two factors of the number 14. Once you have your factors of 14, 1 and 14, that pair, and 2 and 7, look and see which pair of those numbers can you add together and get the number 9. Which pair can you add together and get 9? Again, don't think of it as negative 9 right here or as positive 9. If you add 1 and 14 together in both forms, both positive and negative, we're either going to get the number 15. Everybody can see that putting 1 and 14 together gives you 15. Or we're going to get some version of the number 13. And again, not positive or negative right now. Put them together, you get 15 or you get 13. We can make either positive or negative, either one of those based on signs. But neither one of those, 15 or 13, is the number 9. So check your other pair, 2 and 7. If we put 2 and 7 together, we can get the number 5, or we can get the number 9, and that's the one we want. So the way you factor this trinomial out is you make 2 sets of parentheses right away. Since it doesn't have an a value that's other than 1, you simply put x times x. That's how you start it off. Then you do what I did a second ago. Factor out your numbers for 14. 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. And then which pair will get you to the number 9? The only pair that gets you to 9 is 2 and 7. Notice I didn't put any pluses or minuses at all yet. All we did was write x and x and 2 and 7. After that, take a look at the sign that is in front of C. This one right here. That sign tells you that the numbers are either going to be, or the signs are going to either be the same or they're going to be different. If that number is positive, they're going to be the same. If that number is negative, they're going to be different. What sign do we have here, positive or negative? It's positive. So we know that the signs are going to be the same. So inside of our two binomials, they're either going to say x plus 2, x plus 7, or they're going to say x minus 2, x minus 7. They're both the same. It's not going to be opposite ones. And since they're both the same, you take a look at your sign in front of B right here. Since they're both the same, that's the one that tells you, is it positive or is it negative? And since they're both, since it says minus, they'll both be minus 2, minus 7. So if you look at the solution according to what it says where m times n is equal to 14 and m plus n is equal to negative 9. These are your pairs of factors. And this is the exact same thing that I did here. It just looks a whole lot shorter the way I did it. Your factors are 14 or 1 and 14, negative 1 and negative 14. That's what I mean by don't think of it as positive and negative. Just think of it as 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and negative 2 and negative 7. When you sum them together or when you add them together, 1 and 14 gives you 15. Negative 1 and negative 14 gives you negative 15. That's what I meant by don't think of it as positive and negative. It doesn't matter which sign we use, we can get to the number 15, both positive and negative. And same thing with the number 9. We can get there both positive and negative. Once you have your factors, that's when you decide which type do you need. So the table shows that negative 2, negative 7 gets you to negative 9. Therefore, it's factored out when x minus 2 times x minus 7 gives you the factored version of x squared minus 9x plus 14. So in the white space, I know there's not a lot of blank space on this sheet on the back, but in a white space off to the left or off to the right in the middle, go ahead and copy this problem down right here and work this one. X squared minus 2x minus 48. There are more factors of the number 48, but you can do it just the same. Take about a minute on that one. Okay, let's take a look real quick. I know most of y'all are not quite finished, but let's take a look at this. Remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So your number c, don't think of it as negative 48. Let's just think of it as 48 for a second. So 1 multiplies by 48, 2 multiplies by 24, 3 multiplies by 16, 4 multiplies by 12, 5 doesn't multiply by anything because it doesn't go, there's no 5 or 0 at the end, and 6 multiplies by the number 8. Now notice how close the numbers 6 and 8 are to each other. Once you get that close, it starts, notice right here we're counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it starts counting, it continues counting up like that. So once you get right next to each other, 6 times 8, as long as 7 doesn't go into it, your factors are finished. So from there, ask yourself, which pair of those numbers gets me to b's value 2? And again, don't think of it as negative 2. So let's go through them one at a time just until we get comfortable doing this. 1 and 48. If you put those two numbers together, you're either going to get 47 or 49. That pair's not good because we want to get to 2. When you put 2 and 24 together, you're going to get 22 or you're going to get 26. Again, that number's way too big. We're looking for the number 2. 3 and 16 is either going to get you 13 or it's going to get you 19. And again, we can make positive and negative out of that. Don't think of it as that yet. 4 and 12 is either going to get you 8 or it's going to get you 16. That's not it either. 6 and 8 is either going to get you 2 or it's going to get you 14. 6 and 2 is either going to get you 2 or 14. So it gets you the number 2. Now, there will be times when more than one pair will get you to the right number. Once those examples show up, I'll show you what to do for those. So 6 and 8 are the numbers we're going to write in. 6 and 8. Again, notice we hadn't put any signs yet. We just have X, a blank, and then 6, and then X, a blank, and then 8. So from there, take a look at this sign right here. All that one tells you, are the numbers the same or are they different? Or are the signs the same or are they different? If it were positive, they would be the same, but since it's negative, they are different. Now, this is opposite the one we just did a minute ago. These are going to be different signs. One of them is going to be plus, the other one is going to be minus. Since they're different, we want to look at this one's sign. That one tells you the bigger absolute values sign. So which number is bigger, 6 or 8? 8 is. It's the larger absolute value. It will be negative 8. And since they were different, this one will be positive 6. So x plus 6, x minus 8. Okay, copy this next problem down and factor it out. X, this one will be a little quicker. X squared minus x minus 2. Do it the same way. Factor it out. Your factors of 2 are a lot smaller than 48. Take about 30 seconds with this. Okay, so we still have, again, A's value is 1 over here. So this is simply going to be x times x. This is easy. Think of your factors of C. Remember, C, it can only be 1 times 2 because those numbers are right next to each other. So we're going to use the numbers 1 and 2. This is a good one to practice on, especially with the signs, because this one right here tells us the numbers are either the same or they're different. Which one are they? They're different. Minus means they're different. And since they're different, this one tells us the sign of the bigger number. 2 is larger than 1, so it's negative. And since they're different, this one is positive. Okay, below that one, let's factor another one that we just want to practice factoring for the next several minutes. X squared, this is another easy one, plus 5x plus 4. Factor that one. Take about 30 seconds. Okay, again, your A value is simply 1, so we'll put x times x here. Your factors of C. 4 can be factored into two different pairs, unlike 2. 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Now, that's the same number, so you know there's no numbers between 2 and 2. So which pair of those gets you to B's value, 5? If you put 1 and 4 together, you're either going to get 3 or you're going to get 5. Check the other pair just in case. When you put 2 and 2 together, you're either going to get 0 or you're going to get 4. That's not 5. So 1 and 4 are the numbers we have to use. This sign tells us they're the same or they're different. It's positive, so we know that those numbers are going to be the same. And since they're both the same, this one tells us that they're both positive. Plus 1, plus 4. Let's try one that's a little tougher. Same steps, though. X squared minus 8x plus 12. See if we can factor this one out. Let's take about 30 seconds again. Okay, again, with 12, there are more factors than both 2 and 4, like the previous examples. But we'll still do the same steps. Our C value is 12. So in 12, we can do 1 times 12. We can do 2 times 6. And we can do 3 times 4. Now we have 3 pairs to pick from. Which pair gets you to B's value, 8? Again, don't think of positives and negatives. It makes it harder. Just 8. 1 and 12 get you 11 or 13. So it's not that pair. 2 and 6 get you 4 or 8. So it's possibly that one. And 3 and 4 get you 7 or 1. So that's not it. So we got to use 2 and 6. Got to use 2 and 6. This one tells us they're the same or they're different. What are they? The same. And this one tells us since they're both the same, they're both what? Negative. So minus 2, minus 6. Okay, let's try another one. Again, I know you're taking up a lot of space, but this will help you tremendously. B squared plus 6b minus 27. Let's take about 30 seconds on that one. And again, here's another easy one. 2 sets of parentheses is how you start. B times B. Your C value is 27. I said it's an easy one because there's only 2 pairs of factors there. 1 and 27. 2 doesn't go into it because it's odd. And 3 and 9. There are no numbers between 3 and 9 that go into it. So which pair of those get you to 6? 1 and 27 either get you 26 or get you 28. So it's not that. 3 and 9 either get you 6 or it gets you 12. So 3 and 9 has to be the 2 numbers. 3 and 9. This one tells us they're the same or they're different. We know it's negative, so they're different. That one says since they're different, this one gives us a sign of the bigger one. 9 is bigger, plus 3 is smaller, minus. B minus 3, B plus 9. And we'll pick up with a different value for A, not just one, tomorrow.